I never thought I'd take a job like this. Not at 31. Not with a degree in mechanical engineering. Not with a resume that used to matter. But bills have a way of strangling pride. When I got laid off last winter, I told myself it'd be temporary. I applied everywhere, real places, reputable places, then less reputable ones. Then I stopped checking job descriptions and just clicked apply. That's how I ended up here, feeding a locked room. It started with an online listing titled simply, "Caretaker Needed, Quiet Work, Strict Schedule." No company name, no location until after the phone screening. Just a bullet point list. Must be punctual, must be discreet, must not ask questions about the room, must follow all provided instructions, no exceptions. The hourly rate was absurdly high, triple what I made at my last job. I told myself it was probably a weird storage facility or one of those paranoid biotech places. I didn't think twice about the wording. The phone call came the next day. A woman named Marla interviewed me. Her voice was smooth, flat. She asked if I had any criminal history, any military background, and whether I could keep calm in unfamiliar situations. Then she asked, "Do you believe in keeping things contained?" I laughed, thinking it was some metaphor about life or time management. She didn't laugh back. The next morning I was given an address somewhere way up north. Remote woods, maybe an hour and a half outside of the last gas station. It was just a long gravel road cutting through pine and fog, and then a building. Not a facility, not a lab, just a house. One story, gray, concrete siding, no mailbox, no visible power lines, no windows on the back half. Marla was waiting for me outside, smoking. She wore thick gloves and a scarf, even though it was warm out. And when I parked, she walked up to my window and handed me a badge. "This isn't a job you quit," she said before I even stepped out of the car. "Understand that now." I thought she was joking. I still wish she had been inside. The place was oddly clean. Not cozy, too cold, and sterile for that, but everything was polished and minimal. There was a kitchen, a hallway, 2 bedrooms, and one door at the end that looked like it belonged in a bank vault. Steel reinforced, sealed around the frame, and lined with 6 thick locks. Each lock had a red tag hanging from it, like a luggage label. That's the door I was hired to feed. I didn't know what was behind it. Still don't, not exactly. All I knew, and all I was told at the start, was this. Every night, precisely at 8 p.m., I had to prepare a tray of food, always the same. Items always measured to exact weight, and leave it outside the door. I was never to knock, never to speak, never to stay longer than 10 seconds. The tray would be gone by morning. No one ever came in or out. No one explained what I was feeding, and for the first 5 nights I followed every rule. I didn't ask questions. But this morning, on the 6th day, I woke up early. I made coffee, I stretched, and then, without thinking, I wandered to the end of the hallway. The tray was there, empty as usual, but the door I'd been told, was never to be touched. It was wide open, and something had left footprints in the dust. The first time I saw the house in daylight, it reminded me of a bunker disguised as a home. The front was plain enough, a gravel lot, pine trees lining the edges like silent guards, and the gray slab of a building sitting low and wide like it was trying not to be noticed. Marla met me again at the door. No smile, no small talk, just a clipboard and a printed packet. "Don't skim it," she said, tapping the corner with her pen. "This isn't a job where you improvise." Inside, everything felt like it had been cleaned yesterday and the day before that, and probably every day before that. There was no dust, no clutter, not even fingerprints on the handles. The hallway leading to the locked room was so sterile, it almost didn't feel like part of the house at all. We stopped outside the metal door. It looked even heavier up close, like something meant to hold back floodwaters, or worse. "This is the room," she said. "You won't go inside. You won't speak to it. You won't let it speak to you. I frowned. It. Marla ignored the question and handed me the packet. These are your rules. I flipped to the first page. Caretaker protocol, feeding room 3, strict adherence, required, place the food tray exactly at 8 p.m. every night. Not 7:59, not 8:01. The microwave clock is synced. Use it. Food must match exact measurements. 0.1 cup white rice, cooked 4 ounces, steamed. Broccoli, 6 ounces grilled chicken, no seasoning. 1 glass of water, no ice. You'll find portions pre-measured in the fridge. If anything is missing, log it immediately. Never speak near the door. This includes humming, whispering, or reading aloud. Silence is mandatory within 15 feet of the door. Do not touch the door. You do not open it. You do not knock. You do not test it. Treat it like it doesn't exist. If the tray is not picked up by 8:10 p.m., leave the house immediately. Get in your car. Lock the doors. Do not return until after sunrise. Contact Marla via the emergency number. If you hear anything from inside the room, ignore it. Crying, knocking, breathing, talking, none of it is real. Do not respond, no matter what it says. Never bring technology within 10 feet of the door. No phones, no radios, no Bluetooth devices. Signals don't behave normally here. If the door is ever found open, close your eyes, count to 30, open them. If the door is still open, leave immediately and call the secondary number listed on the back of this page. Is this some kind of containment unit? I asked, trying to hide the nervous laugh in my voice. What's in there? An animal? Marla looked at me for a long time. There's something in there that needs structure, she said. It doesn't live the way we do. It doesn't think the way we do. But it notices everything. Her words made less sense the more I thought about them, but her face, the tight seriousness in her eyes, told me not to argue. She showed me the fridge in the kitchen, stocked with neatly labeled containers. Your meals are here too. You'll stay in the guest room. 3 days on, 4 off. We rotate. I'm not the only one doing this. There are 5 of you. You'll never meet. That's part of the design. She handed me a set of keys. If you lose these, don't try to get spares. Call me. Never force your way in or out. The house had no Wi-Fi. My phone got no reception. Landline only. One number was taped beside it. Another, handwritten in red ink on the back of the packet, had no name. Just call only in case of door violation. I unpacked my bag in the guest room. Simple space. A bed, a dresser. No mirror. Even the bathroom mirror had been removed. Just a bare wall and a note that said, reflective surfaces stored in the basement. Ask before using. That first night, I followed every instruction. I warmed the food in the microwave, waited for the clock to hit exactly 8 o'clock, carried the tray hands, shaking slightly, to the door, left it, walked away. 10 minutes later, it was gone. No sound, no movement, just an empty tray on the floor. The second night, same thing. The third, I thought I heard something behind the door. A whisper, faint, like someone clearing their throat. But I didn't speak. I didn't stop. I placed the tray and walked away. Marla never checked in, but somehow, she always knew I was following the rules. A check arrived in my account after the first 3 days. Triple what I expected. Part of me wanted to quit, then take the money, never come back. But curiosity has its own kind of gravity. The rules started to make sense in the strangest way. They weren't just safety instructions. They were a kind of language, the only language whatever was behind that door understood. A structure, a rhythm, a ritual, and I was learning to speak it. It was the 5th night when I made the mistake. I didn't mean to. I wasn't testing the rules. I was tired, mentally drifting, and something slipped. It started with a small delay. I'd set an alarm for 7:45 p.m., same as always, but I'd fallen asleep reading in the guest room and woke to the microwave clock blinking 7:58. I rushed into the kitchen, tripped over the corner of the rug, and nearly dropped the tray. The water sloshed onto the broccoli. The chicken slid slightly out of place. I recentered it, adjusted the rice, but the second ticked louder than usual. 7:59. I carried the tray, fast but careful, breathing shallow as I approached the door. I didn't dare look at it too long. That was something I'd started doing without thinking, keeping my eyes lowered as I got close, like I might accidentally see something I shouldn't. I reached the marked tape on the floor, right at the 15-foot boundary. 8 o'clock blinked on the microwave down the hallway. I placed the tray, just on time, but in my hurry, I whispered something. 3 words, barely audible. There you go. It wasn't intentional. Just a mindless habit from years of living with pets, siblings, even my own plants. An unconscious murmur meant to fill silence. As soon as I said it, I froze. The hallway felt suddenly colder, like the air had thickened. I backed away, step by step. Did it count as speaking? Did a whisper trigger the same response? I waited. 10 minutes passed. The tray vanished, like always. I tried to convince myself it didn't matter. No consequence meant no violation. Maybe the rule was more flexible than they implied. Maybe it was just superstition. But that night, just after midnight, I heard something from the hallway. It wasn't a sound I could explain. Not a voice, not movement. It was like a suggestion of motion, like something shifting against the walls, or crawling against the seams of the house. A brushing sound, low and wet. I pressed my ear to the guest room door. Nothing. Then a knock, not on my door, not on the steel one. Somewhere between, light, rhythmic. 2 taps, a pause, then 3 more. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The air smelled different, faintly metallic, like old blood or a burnt penny. After a minute, the sound stopped. The next morning, the hallway was normal. The steel door locked, tray gone. But when I stepped into the kitchen, I noticed something odd. The microwave clock was off, blinking black. I tried to reset it, but it wouldn't respond. Even after unplugging it and plugging it back in, the screen stayed blank. That night, I had to rely on my watch. I counted the seconds just to be sure I placed the tray at the exact time. I didn't whisper. I didn't even breathe until I'd stepped away. I considered calling Marla, telling her I might have broken a rule, but something stopped me. Shame, maybe, or fear that saying it out loud would make it more real. Later that night, I checked the bathroom. The mirror, the one that had been removed since day 1, had something scrawled on the wall behind it. Faint lines, like writing pressed into the drywall by a fingernail. 6 words. I heard you. Don't lie again. I didn't write it. I hadn't even touched the mirror panel. It wasn't a punishment. Not yet. But it was a message. I didn't break any rules on the 6th night. I followed every instruction, not just carefully literally. I measured the food twice. I checked the temperature of the water with a thermometer from the drawer. I kept my mouth shut and my eyes low. At exactly 8 o'clock, I set the tray down, stepped back to the 15-foot mark, and walked away. Nothing happened. No knocking, no whispers, no metallic air. But I didn't feel relief. I felt watched. I didn't sleep well, and when I finally drifted off, I dreamt of a hallway that stretched longer than it should have. The steel door at the end kept shifting, melting in and out of the wall, as though deciding whether it belonged there at all. When I woke, it was 5:14 a.m. The house was silent. I padded to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and poured a glass of water. I wasn't hungry. I just wanted the normalcy of doing something human. That's when I noticed the tray was still there, full, sitting at the edge of the door, like I'd left it. Nothing had touched the food. I checked the microwave. Still, blank. Then my watch. 8:03. I blinked. That wasn't possible. I was sure it was 5 a.m. had I fallen back asleep. I looked again. The second hand wasn't moving. Dead battery. I grabbed my phone from the bedroom. No signal, no bars, but the lock screen lit up when I pressed it. 8:04. Monday. My stomach turned. I hadn't fed the room last night. I thought I had, but something was wrong with time. Or me. Or both. Either the microwave clock died and I'd messed up, or something had made me believe I'd done my job when I hadn't. That's when I remembered rule number 5. If the tray is not picked up by 8:10 p.m., leave the house immediately. I was still in the house, and it was 8:04. 6 minutes left. I dropped the glass. It shattered across the tile, but I didn't stop. I sprinted to my duffel bag, grabbed my keys, and ran to the front door. When I opened it, the sky looked wrong. It was deep night, but I felt like it was still morning. The shadows of the trees stretched too far. The stars above pulsed, not twinkled, like they were breathing. The gravel under my shoes sounded muffled, like I was running through cotton. The car didn't respond to the key fob. No lights, no clicks. I got in manually, slammed the door, turned the key, engine dead. No sound, not even a whine. I tried again and again. Then I stopped, because I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, steady, crunching gravel. I didn't look. I remembered the red letter rule. If the door is ever found open, close your eyes. Count to 30. If it's still open, leave. But the door wasn't open. I hadn't looked, and I wasn't going to. I shut my eyes, counted 1, 2, 3. The steps got closer. The air grew warmer, like someone breathing against my window. Something tapped the roof of the car. 4, 5, 6. I clenched the key in my hand. 20-8, 29:30. I opened my eyes. Nothing there. The sky looked normal again. The air cleared. The dashboard lights blinked on like someone had just plugged the car into the world again. The engine started. I drove. Didn't stop until the trees ended. I didn't call Marla. I didn't go home either. I drove aimlessly for hours, stopped at a diner 2 towns over, and stared at a plate of food I couldn't bring myself to eat. When I returned the next afternoon, the tray was gone. The microwave worked. My watch ticked normally. But when I opened the fridge to check the food, the chicken was gone. Every single container gone. Only the broccoli and rice remained. All of it unlabeled. And when I closed the fridge door, I swear, I saw something in the reflection of the stainless steel. A second face behind mine, mouth open, like it had been screaming for a long time. After the missing chicken incident, something shifted. Not in the house itself, at least not immediately. Everything looked the same. Still, I felt watched in a different way. Not like before, when it was the thing behind the door watching me this time. It felt like the house was watching too. I tried to distract myself with routine, cook, feed, wait, sleep. But I started to notice small inconsistencies. The food containers in the fridge were now in a different order each day. One morning, the water glass had already been filled, waiting on the counter with beads of condensation, though I hadn't touched it. The hallway light flickered slightly when I walked past the 15-foot mark, even though the bulb had just been replaced. I told myself it was fatigue, stress, sleepwalking. Maybe. But then I found the trap door in the hallway closet. I only noticed it because of a draft. I opened the closet to grab a spare towel and felt cold air touch my ankles. I looked down and saw the faint outline of a square seam in the hardwood, covered by a thin mat and 2 crates of cleaning supplies. It wasn't marked. It wasn't mentioned in the protocol packet. The trapdoor led to a steep, narrow stairwell. Old wood, no railing. The air grew colder with each step, and by the time I reached the bottom, I realized 2 things. This basement was not under the house. It was much larger. The floor was concrete, damp. The walls stretched to much farther than the house's footprint should allow. No insulation, just stone and pipe and flickering, naked bulbs overhead. I turned a corner and found the first room. A desk, a chair, dozens of papers pinned to the wall. They were logs, daily logs, by hand, each dated, each signed by a different name. Some of the paper had yellowed at the edges. One was dated August 1987. I started reading. Log entry, August 12, 1987. W. Merrick. Subject responded to the withdrawal. 2.4 minutes past feeding window. Mild auditory hallucinations reported by caretaker moaning. 3 repetitions. Subject returned to dormant state by 8:19. Protocol remains effective. Log entry, January 3, 1992. Esabara door was not fully locked after tray delivery. Unknown breach. Subject manifested in reflection window pane. Guest bathroom. Reflections removed, per instruction. Incident logged. No injuries. Log entry, November 27, 2004. R. Menzie subject, attempted mimicry. Knocked-in pattern, used by former employee. No response given. Isolation appears to weaken its precision. Recommend decreasing proximity to humans. Each page was worse than the last. Over time, the logs shifted from cold observations to fearful confessions. Some pages had words scribbled out. One entry was entirely in red ink and simply read, "We should have burned the house." In the drawers beneath the desk, I found a tape recorder. Dusty, old, but it still worked. I pressed play. The voice was male, breathy, unsteady. "I don't know what it is. We're not feeding it. We're teaching it. Every rule it memorizes them. And when we slip, it doesn't just lash out. It adapts. It studies us. A click. Whatever's behind that door, it's not locked in because it's dangerous. It's locked in because we gave it a shape. We taught it how to stay. We built the walls around its name, and now it wears the rules like skin." That sentence played again. Wears the rules like skin. I felt my stomach twist. Not from fear, something else. Recognition. It wasn't just mimicking. It wasn't just pretending. It was becoming. At the far end of the basement, I found a second door. Wooden. Smaller. It had been nailed shut from the outside. On it, written in charcoal, were the words, "Do not open unless the main door opens first." Underneath that, scratched deep into the grain, "If IT escapes, this is where IT goes next." I backed away. I shouldn't have come down here. This wasn't meant for me. But as I turned to leave, I saw a photo half buried under a stack of old files. 5 people, black and white, early 2000s maybe. They stood in front of the house. Each held a clipboard. Each wore an expression I recognized. Now exhaustion, disguised as professionalism. I flipped the photo over. On the back, cycled 3 caretakers. All disappeared. No bodies recovered. I dropped it, ran up the stairs, slammed the closet door shut behind me. When I turned around, I saw something new taped to the steel door. A sticky note, fresh ink, sharp handwriting. "You're learning too fast. Slow down." I didn't write that. I hadn't heard anyone come, and the tray was still untouched. It was 7:58 p.m. that night. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the house lights on. No shadows, no music, just my breath and the low hum of the fridge. I replayed the recordings, reread the logs. It wasn't a creature. Not in the traditional sense. It didn't eat the food. It learned from it. Taste, texture, weight, temperature. The rules weren't prison bars. They were scaffolding, instructions for existence, and every time someone followed the rules, it grew more fluent in pretending to be human, more real, more here. The next day, I didn't touch the closet, didn't check the trapdoor, didn't even go near the hallway until it was time. I followed the ritual mechanically. Heated the broccoli for 90 seconds, chicken for 60, rice, exactly 1 cup, water in the glass with no ice, tray arranged in the usual order. I stood in the kitchen, watching the microwave clock. 7:58, 7:59, 8 o'clock. I picked up the tray and walked the hallway. But this time, I hesitated at the 15-foot mark. The steel door, it was different. Still locked, still shut, but it looked tighter, like it had shifted slightly outward in the frame, like it was pressing, not bursting through, leaning, watching. I placed the tray, backed away, no speaking, no mistakes, but as I turned to walk away, I heard it whisper, my name, clear, calm, mimicked, perfectly, Evan. I froze, not because it spoke but because of how it spoke. The voice was mine, identical. It didn't sound like an impression. It sounded like a recording, like it had pulled my voice from the air and pressed play. Evan, come back. I walked faster. That night, I pushed the dresser in front of the guest room door. I didn't sleep. At 3:17 a.m., I heard something scraping along the hallway walls. Not footsteps, not breathing, something dragging, like nails across paint. By the next evening, I'd made a decision. I was going to leave early. I packed up my bag, left the tray in the fridge, and planned to drive out. Before dark, no goodbyes, no explanation. I told myself I'd call Marla once I was out of range. The moment I stepped outside, I stopped. There were footprints in the gravel, not shoe prints, bare footprints, toes, arches, heels, too long, too narrow, too deep. They led in a crooked path, around the car, and then up the side of the house directly to the guest room window, and then they vanished. No return path. I unlocked the car manually and sat in the driver's seat. Just breathe, turn the key, go. But when I looked at the rear view mirror, I saw something impossible. The reflection was not the back seat. It was the hallway, my hallway, inside the house. And in that hallway stood a figure, blurry, grainy, but clearly human-shaped, facing away from the door, standing in front of the steel room. I turned around in the car, nothing behind me, looked back at the mirror. Still the hallway, still the figure, except now it was facing the door, staring at it, reaching. I blinked, and the mirror shattered from the inside. Glass rained onto the console. I jumped out of the car and ran to the front door. My mind screamed at me to go, but instinct overrode logic. I couldn't leave it open. I couldn't risk it getting out. I ran down the hallway, the steel door still shut, but something inside was pacing now. Soft thuds against the floor, back and forth, not angry, not panicked, measured, like someone practicing walking, like it had legs now. I stayed awake until morning. The next few days blurred. The tray was taken each night, but not consistently. Sometimes by 8:05, sometimes later. One night, I heard the food being chewed behind the door, not just eaten, tasted, smacked lips, swallowed slowly, and once, I thought I heard it laugh. On the 11th day, I made a mistake. I forgot about rule number 7. No tech near the door. It wasn't intentional. I had my phone in my pocket, left it on, didn't think about it. I was standing just inside the 10-foot mark when it rang. I froze. The ringtone echoed through the hallway, like it didn't belong there, like it was in a different frequency range. Altogether, the wall seemed to pulse once, then settle. Then the phone shut off, dead. Battery still at 80%, but dead. I placed the tray and walked away, quiet, rigid, afraid to breathe wrong. That night, when I went to bed, the lights flickered twice, then everything went out. Complete black dot, the kind you feel in your teeth. I stayed still in the bed, listened nothing for 5 minutes, then 10, and then scraping. Not from the hallway this time, from the ceiling, directly above me. Long, slow scratches moving across the floor above, even though there was no attic, just the roof. Then I heard the breathing, wet, gurgling. It wasn't animal, it wasn't human, it was both. A low exhale, like something was trying to mimic the sound of lungs, failing, learning. I didn't sleep that night either. The next morning, the microwave clock displayed the wrong time again. 6:06 p.m. I checked my phone. Still dead. No lights. No response. Every light switch in the house was useless. Even the kitchen faucet produced nothing. No power, no water, and the fridge empty. All the food was gone, even my food. Only the tray remained clean in the sink. That was when I understood. The house had shifted. Or I had. I wasn't feeding it anymore. It was feeding me. Routine, order, repetition, each day, a pattern to copy. Each mistake, a new adaptation. It didn't want the food, it wanted the ritual, because rituals are how we learn to be something else, and it was learning to be me. I finally called. Marla. It took me almost 2 hours to work up the nerve. I'd walked laps through the living room. I'd cleaned the same spotless counter 3 times. I even checked the steel door again, hoping to find it locked, hoping it hadn't opened in the night. It was still shut, but I swear it breathed when I got close. The house phone was warm to the touch. The dial tone echoed louder than usual, like the static was pressed against my ear. Marla picked up on the second ring. "Say nothing, just listen," she said. I froze. "You've been downstairs. I know. You found the logs." Her voice was different now. No longer flat and clipped. It carried weight. Resignation. "You're wondering if it's real?" she said. "It is. But you still think it's something inside the room." I whispered. "It is inside. I've heard it." "No, Evan, you haven't." My mouth went dry. She continued, calm and tired. "That room was empty when we built it. Just an airlock, a vacuum. The first few caretakers followed random rituals, measurements, steps, even gibberish phrases, and it started forming around the structure. My legs gave out. I sank onto the couch. It's not a prisoner. It's a shape with no core, a mask, looking for a face. The rules don't contain it. They teach it. You understand that now, don't you?" I couldn't respond. I stared at the hallway. "Every time someone follows the protocol," she said, "it copies them more, fills in its own gaps. One of the early caretakers thought they could fix it by refusing the routine. Just didn't feed it one night." She paused. 3 people disappeared. The thing learned hunger. My hand trembled against the receiver. "Then why haven't you stopped this? Why keep feeding it?" Silence. Then, I did stop. I blinked. "What?" "I haven't been to that house in over 9 years. Not since my sister took over my shift. You're not the 5th caretaker. You're the 50th. Maybe more. None of us have lasted. We just passed the house on, one to the next." I felt sick. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "You wouldn't have come." My blood ran cold. "So you lied." "I kept you safe," she snapped. Then softer, "for as long as I could." Something in her voice cracked. "I used to think we were doing something noble, that it was our duty. But now I know better." I heard her inhale sharply. "There's one rule I never wrote down. Not in the packet, not in the logs." "What is it?" "If it learns your name," she said. "If it says it," I whispered. "It already has." Silence, not dead air. Just Marla, not breathing. When she finally spoke again, her voice was lower. "You need to leave. Immediately." I tried. It wouldn't let me. "No, you don't understand." Her voice trembled now. "It doesn't need to trap you anymore. You've already given it everything it needs." I stood. My reflection in the kitchen window moved a half-second too slow. "You don't have much time," she said. "Whatever's behind that door, it won't stay there. You brought the ritual. You kept it alive." I turned to ask what she meant, but the phone line went dead. I called back, "Don't ring." No answer. Just static. Then I heard it. The front door lock clicked by itself. I stepped into the hallway and saw a folded piece of paper on the floor. No knock, no footsteps, just the note, written in my handwriting. "I don't need Marla anymore." I didn't move for a long time. Just stood there in the hallway, staring at the folded note on the floor, like it was a landmine. I hadn't written it. I hadn't seen anyone drop it. And yet the handwriting, my handwriting was perfect. Same slant, same crooked R. I don't need Marla anymore. The meaning was clear. It had learned enough. I picked up the note with shaking hands and carried it into the kitchen. I didn't want it near the hallway. Didn't want it near the steel door. I placed it beside the phone and stepped back like it might bite. Then I started packing fast. I didn't even bother folding clothes. I just shoved everything into the duffel: charger, wallet, notebook, a single bottle of water. I didn't care about my pay. I didn't care about the contract. I just wanted out. I sprinted for the front door, but it was open, not wide. Just a few inches, a sliver, enough to show the outside. Except it wasn't the outside I remembered. The trees were wrong. Too tall, too dark. Their branches moved without wind, twitching like broken fingers. The sky above them pulsed like a dying heartbeat. No stars, no moon, just shifting, oily light. I slammed the door shut and locked every bolt. Turned back, toward the house. The steel door at the end of the hallway was open, wide. The tray was still sitting on the floor, untouched, but the hallway lights were flickering now, almost rhythmically. 1-2, pause, 1-2, like a pulse. I backed away slowly, breath catching in my throat. Then I heard footsteps, not behind the steel door. Inside the house. They came from the guest room. I held my breath, listening. Whoever, whatever it was, it didn't run or creep. It walked, confident, like it owned the place, like it knew exactly how the floorboards would creak. I ducked into the laundry closet and pulled the door almost shut. Peered through the sliver. A figure passed by. It wore my face. Not exactly, just close enough. The skin was too tight. The eyes, too dark, but it had my height, my build, the way I hold tension in my shoulders. Even the limp I'd had for 2 days, after twisting my ankle on the gravel. It walked straight to the kitchen, paused at the sink, then turned and looked directly at the closet door. I slammed it shut and held it. No footsteps, no knock, nothing, just silence. Then a voice, inches from the other side. "You're not the first, Evan, but you'll be the last." I shoved the door open with my shoulder and ran. Not to the front door, not outside. I went for the trapdoor. If the house had rewritten the world outside, if it had infected the threshold, then maybe the basement was the only place. It hadn't finished shaping yet. I yanked the trapdoor open and dropped down the stairs, landing hard on the concrete below. No flashlight, just instinct. I followed the sound of dripping water until I reached the far end. The sealed door, the one with charcoal writing, "If IT escapes, this is where IT goes next." My fingers trembled as I touched the nails holding it shut. Old, rusted, easy to pull free. I hesitated. If I opened this door, would I find a way out? Or would I let something worse out? Upstairs, something screamed. A sound like tearing static, like an old recording being chewed through a speaker. I didn't have time. I pulled the final nail and pushed. The door open, darkness inside, then a faint glow. A reflection, mirrors, dozens, maybe hundreds, all facing each other, and in the center something small, not the entity, not the mimic, the origin. It looked like a child, skinless, eyeless, kneeling, whispering to itself, in broken syllables. Broccoli rice, 7 steps, silence, silence. I understood then. This was where it was born. This was where the rituals had soaked too deep, where the rules had nested and grown teeth. I stepped into the room, trembling. My own reflection followed me in each mirror, but slightly wrong. Some with smiles, some with mouths too wide. I didn't know what I planned to do. Trap it, destroy it, beg. But the creature in the center turned toward me slowly and smiled. "You taught me so well." I don't remember walking out of the house. I don't remember the stairs, the forest, the gravel road. Just waking up in my car. The duffel was in the passenger seat, engine cold, tank full. and sitting on the dash was the tray, still perfectly arranged. The milk was fresh, the crackers unbroken, the apple unbruised. Even the folded napkin was there. Only now, instead of thank you, it read, "Good boy." I drove 4 hours without stopping. I passed familiar landmarks, unfamiliar ones. At one point, I swear I circled the same gas station 3 times. By nightfall, I reached my apartment, my real apartment, the one I hadn't seen in weeks. The key still worked. Nothing inside had changed, but I checked every room, every cabinet, every window twice, maybe more. I left the tray outside the front door, burned the clothes I wore, tossed the phone into the river. I even smashed my bathroom mirror, but the reflection still didn't quite match. Every night since then, I've heard tapping on my apartment wall from the inside. A soft pattern. 1-2. Pause. 1-2. I try to ignore it. I've started recording everything, writing things down, times, patterns, phrases, because I don't know how much of this is still me. Yesterday I found a note in my own handwriting, taped to the fridge. "I live alone," the note said. "You forgot to feed it." And I knew it wasn't talking about the tray. It was talking about the story, the ritual, the audience, you. It's learning again now. It's growing, stretching, wearing me like skin. The steel door was never meant to hold it in. It was meant to hold the rest of us out. There's a knock at my door, right now. Not loud, not demanding, just polite, rhythmic. I'm not going to answer, not yet. But if you're still listening, if you made it to the end of this, then maybe you're next. Because this is how it begins. Someone tells you a strange story, and then you start to wonder if any of it was real, and then something inside the mirror smiles, and then you hear a knock.